Welcome back, and joining me for a closer look at what's played out on the market scene today is Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth. Thank you so much for your time. Andrew, JSE slightly in the green, but really looking like the Rand is the biggest winner of the day. According to ShareNet, it strengthened by more than 2%. What's responsible for this great turnaround today?
Hi, Zanati. Thanks for having me. Yeah, nice to see the Rand a little stronger today. In fact, I was just looking now. I think it's the only emerging market currency that's actually stronger today. The rest are all a bit weaker. I think that Trump tweet that we saw earlier this week, kind of pointing fingers at South Africa, I think things are settling down a bit. We're also seeing US markets, a little bit weaker. Lots of companies reporting results, so the moves are stock specific.
Let's also hope that its investors are also anticipating a good State of the Nation address, the first one under the GNU government tomorrow. I quickly want to go to the US before we look at what the JSE companies came out with today. Alphabet. There we did see that stock down 8% after the release of the earnings. Top line surprising to the downside, but surprising to the upside is the capital expenditure that the company says it is planning for boosting its AI capabilities, which I imagine investors aren't too welcoming of.
Yeah, the miss on the revenue side wasn't major. I think another sore point was that cloud revenue growth was only 30%, but we were expecting 35. I think 30% is still pretty good, but I think that let people down. But I think the biggest one was that surprise on the capex side. But we've seen these big tech companies ramping up the capex recently. Microsoft, they announced it the other day, 80 billion is what they're committing to. Meta's not far off what Google's doing. Amazon report tomorrow, so we'll hear what they have to say. I know there's a well-known investor in Omaha who's quite skeptical about the capex from these big tech guys. But, the guys that are running these companies are seriously smart individuals, and, would they be spending this money? Well, would they not be spending this money if they didn't see the risk reward, skewed in their favor? I think it makes sense what they're doing.
I guess DeepSeek also isn't making things any easier for these companies. But let's go into pharmaceutical company Novo Nordisk. They came out with numbers as well today. Actually, someone yesterday chose Novo Nordisk as their stock pick, and I guess that was a successful bet.
Great pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, we did see that stock rising as profit came out stronger than expected. And it's quite interesting because in recent weeks, it had been under pressure from Eli Lilly's competition. So are investors just shrugging that off right now?
I thought it was a great set of results from Novo. In fact, I thought the shares would actually be up higher given how good the results were. They beat substantially on sales, margin expansion. The outlook for 2025 looked really good as well. They're expecting growth of 16 to 25% sales growth for the year. I think that's fantastic. They're on a forward PE of 21. They've re-rated a lot. I think there was maybe a bit too much hype on these GLP-1 drugs. And we saw, maybe the last 6 to 9 months, both Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, their share prices have come down. There's been a bit of re-rating. But, Novo Nordisk growing at 20% on a forward PE of 21, it looks quite attractive. We've got Eli Lilly coming out tomorrow, so it'll be quite interesting what they have to say.
All right, we will definitely be keeping a close eye on that. Let's come back to the JSE and take a look at some of the companies that came out with numbers. Sappi out with first quarter results, adjusted core profit climbing by a significant 56%. Even on the headline earnings, I see that they swung from a loss to a profit. It was quite interesting to see the share price movements because in the morning it was up about 5%, and then I saw those gains being reversed until I think it ended the day down almost 5%. How did you digest these numbers?
I thought the results from Sappi were pretty solid. So quite surprised to see the shares down. I think it's almost like the Sasol in reverse. It's one thing to have results, but it's what the market's expectations are that will kind of move markets at the end of the day. So I thought they were good from Sappi, but markets clearly were expecting more.
Well, did Sasol meet market expectations? Because, I mean, they're still under pressure. So, of course, they came out with their
Yeah.
interim trading update saying that they expect headline earnings per share to drop by as much as 36%. And, of course, this comes after the production update that they had last month that investors weren't really impressed by. But, of course, we saw that shares surging about 5% on the day. Yeah. What's your take on that?
So, Sasol announced earnings per share is decreasing between 47 and 61% compared to the same period last year. There's been a decrease in sales volumes. They also say the decline in the rand cost of Brent crude and decline in refining margins are also reasons for the poor performance. Later this month, they'll have the 2025 interim financials, and they'll give a bit more color and provide details on the improvement plans. Clearly, there's a lot of improvements needed at Sasol. It's white knuckle stuff being an investor in Sasol. It's a real roller coaster. But despite, really poor results today, the share price was basically flat. And the reason why is it comes down to expectations. Sasol's on a PE of 4 to 5. There is very little optimism baked into Sasol at all. And hence why they were flat despite really weak results.
All right. Before we get to your stock pick quickly, AMD, that's another one. The chip maker came out with numbers as well, also taking quite quite a knock there, actually declining about 10%. I do understand, though, that they did beat on revenue and earnings, but there was something with a miss on the data center sales.
Data center. Yeah. I think with what the boom in AI, I think what Wall Street are looking at is, it's data center revenue growth, it's cloud growth. Those kind of metrics are really what Wall Street are focusing on at the moment. So AMD's shares are down about 10% at the moment. Data center sales fell short of expectation. However, they grew data center sales 69%.
And they missed.
But fell short, and they missed. But, they're on a spot PE of over 100, so there was a lot of expectations already baked into that price, and unfortunately they missed.
Okay, all right. Well, let us get to your stock pick for today. What are you choosing?
Sure. So TransDigm is my stock pick tonight. Look, it's a boring business. They sell airplane parts to airplane companies, but they operate in an industry with high barriers to entry, and they have little competition. Which I love those kind of businesses. They released their results last night, which I thought were good, but the shares were surprisingly down. So I think this is, maybe an opportunity as an entry point.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today, Andrew. Much appreciated. That was Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth.